everybody, and welcome to the Four Seasons. I'm your host, Ken Johnson. We're doing a special episode today in honor of fall. So sit back, relax, enjoy as we talk about a very rare pumpkin, something that is a favored food item in my family. I'll show you how to fix that today, and then we'll do a recap. Cucurbita moschata. Yep, that's the Latin name for this, but we mostly know it as the Seminole pumpkin. And the Seminole pumpkin is unique. It is unlike most squashes and pumpkins that you will see in the market. In fact, you'll probably never see this in the market unless you live in a very special area that can get items that are rare or hard to find, or if you live in a subtropic climate. So this type of pumpkin, you can see the top of it, it's going actually out. So the stem on it is kind of bulging out. And it's got this waxy coating. It's kind of a faint cheese color. It's not the bright orange that we equate with pumpkins, but this thing has phenomenal flavor. And when we crack this thing open, what you'll notice is it has unique seeds. It's not like other pumpkins, the Maxima, the Peppo, or any of the other. Okay, so I tried to give a little brief rundown of the different types of pumpkins, but unfortunately, I live in Northwest Florida, and there's a lot of military bases around where they do Navy training, and the price of freedom sometimes is that you don't get the best taping because there's helicopters flying around all the time. So I came inside. I'm at the in-laws today, and so I just wanted to explain with pumpkins. There's different types. You have pepitos, you have maximas, you have moschatas, you have all these different types, and so that means you really can't cross pumpkins that easily. Even though they look like you can cross them very easily, you can't. So for instance, Peppos, Cucurbita Peppo, that is where we get pepitas from. It's a pumpkin that's actually grown for the seeds. And so even though you can eat all squash seeds, that one is the one that's actually grown for the seed. And if you actually saw the pumpkin that is used to make the canned pumpkin, it doesn't even look like a pumpkin at all. It is very long, more reminiscent of a 3 or 4 foot long butternut more than anything else. So different pumpkins have different purposes, and the seeds are also different. So as I was showing you with the stem, those stems really tell a lot. So since it didn't have the ridges, it bulged out around the top, you can see it's a moschata. And so just looking at the stems, if you know anything about pumpkins, you'll be able to tell what they are. In a little bit, I'll be cutting into them, and I'll show you the seeds, and it'll be more reminiscent of what we see as being a typical summer squash, like a long neck or a crook neck that had gotten too big. And so that's what they most resemble to me. And so they don't necessarily look like the pumpkins you would see like normally from the store. What you normally see in the store is what's called a Maxima pumpkin, and so they have distinctive seeds from what would be the Peppo variety. So we'll cut into this moschata in a little bit, and from there you'll see the seeds, you'll see the preparation as we work towards the fry bread. Okay, so now we got the Seminole pumpkin on a cutting board. First thing you need is a good sharp knife, and what I'll do, You'll see in a minute, because I'm having to do this by myself. I don't have somebody holding the camera. I'm going to cut off this very top part, just the top, take that off. Then I'll come around and I'll make a cut this way, and then I'll make a cut this way, and I'll scoop out the seed. I'm going to save the seeds. The reason why I'm going to save the seeds is because I have learned over the years, when you have a difficulty growing a plant, that if you save those seeds and plant their offspring the following year, those plants have become acclimated to the area. And so therefore, they're more likely to produce compared to other seeds that you may get brand new. So in this case, these right here, saving these seeds, I'll probably be able to produce successfully for the first time ever in my life some Seminole pumpkins in this area of Florida. And then we'll go from there. So I'll show you the seeds. You'll be able to see what they look like, and you'll also see this cut. Hey, all right. So we've already cut the top of it off, and I wanted to show you a few things. First off, look at this waxy layer. That's kind of unique for this type of pumpkin. You don't normally see that in other pumpkins as much. It's a protective layer. And so again, you can actually see that bulging. There's no real deep ridges. They're spiny like some pumpkins. It's a very narrow vine. So all this lets you know it's a machata. And then I want to show you something else. There is a lot of water that pours out of certain vegetables and fruits and things of that nature. And so, if you ever have an issue with swelling, water retention, things of that nature, one of the old Cherokee healing remedies is really a diet plan. And one of the things that we do is we say, if you cut it and it bleeds water, don't eat it if you're having swelling or fluid retention issues, because the very minerals and vitamins that's in the plant, allowing it to maintain all this water, that is going to be the same stuff that is causing your body to hold in water. And so if you put the food in you that's doing this to this plant, what is it going to do to you? It's going to make you hold in fluids. So that's a little trick for somebody that's just into traditional healing, especially Native American healing. So I'm going to make a few more cuts, and then we'll be able to see the seeds. But I wanted you to see this step, and also wanted you to see this very unique wax that's on this plant. It's unlike most pumpkins you'll probably ever see, so I wanted to show this. Okay, so now you see the top. I've split this open, and so I'm going to move this over, and I wanted to show you what this kind of looks like. So it almost resembles in many ways a butternut squash. And you may wonder, Ken, why are you going to be cutting it in quarters before you hollow it out? Well, that's because these are not the pumpkins like you get in a store. There's not one huge, large cavity. There's actually chambers. And so this is actually fairly thick. And so it's easier if you cut them again, and then you'll be able to get to the seeds and get them out, because there's chambers to this. It's not one big open thing. It is more like a butternut. In fact, butternuts are a type of machata. So therefore, it only seems right that it resembles a butternut in many ways, because that is that type of pumpkin or squash's natural traits. And so, again, as you can see, plenty of water pouring out of this. And the thing I love about this, while I'm not a fan of butternut squash, I know a lot of people love butternut squash, this is not going to taste like butternut. It's going to have a flavor that is at least 10 to 20 times more pronounced and more sweet. And it's also not going to be like this right here. So this right here is a totally different pumpkin. This is that stuff I was telling you about, that's the long pumpkin and everything. And it's got a different flavor profile than this. So usually with the canned pumpkin, you have to spice it up. It does not have a good flavor. And a lot of times, even the Maximas and things that you see in the stores, if you're cooking with them, they don't have a good flavor. This will have flavor. And so that's why we're using this. If you don't have this, what people consider to be a ornamental pumpkin, the baby boos, those little bitty pumpkins, they will also work extremely well for this. So if you cannot find Seminole Pumpkin, and you know, I frankly don't like butternut squash, but you could use butternut, then I highly recommend using a baby boo. So just so you know, all I'm doing right now is I'm taking this right here and I'm using a spoon to scoop it out. I've already done some of these so you can see what they look like. Then what I'll do is just salt these, wrap them in some saran wrap, and I'll put them in the microwave and cook them in the microwave. This is a fantastic application. You don't have to use a oven for this, because all we're trying to do is we're not trying to develop flavors for like a soup where roasting would be better. What we're going to do is we're going to clean these seeds out. I'm going to save them, so I'll show you what they look like once I clean them. But again, you can tell this is not one of those Halloween pumpkins that you see in the store make a jack-o'-lantern. This is a totally different critter. So what we're going to do is we're going to microwave it. The microwave works beautifully with these. I normally hate microwaves, but this is a perfect application for it. And then once we get it cooked, we'll scoop it out using a spoon. And once we scoop out all that flesh, after it's cooled, then we'll start the process of making the bread. And the bread is very quick, and then we'll fry it. I'll show the frying action of it, and then we'll start assembling our Indian tacos. Okay, so I just wanted to show you some of the seed saving techniques. This is about my 4th wash of water. These things are so high in beta carotenes and things of that nature that the water, the first 2 or 3 washes looked like orange juice. That is how nutrient packed these pumpkins are compared to other pumpkin types. And so what I'm doing here, I've got pretty much all of the debris off of it, and you can tell just from my thumbnail, I have a big hand, so that is almost about the same size as my thumbnail. So these are very small pumpkins, are actually about half the size of my thumbnail. So these are very small seeds for a pumpkin, or what we would consider to be pumpkin, because again, this is a different variety. And so this is going to look more like your butternut, or even your straight neck and crooked neck squash that we're used to having. And so I just wanted to show you this. This is for my seed saving. You could also do this if you wanted to roast them, although you wouldn't get very much out of them. So there's no need in wasting these precious seeds for roasting when there's better seeds on the market, and they really they're not suited for seed roasting, although people do this. And what I'll do is I'm collecting these, putting them into a bowl for now. These I will dry off. After I dry them off, then they'll be completely dry to the touch. I'll let them air dry. I'll just kind of take my hand and I'll just kind of on the sheet tray, I'll just kind of move them around to make sure that all the water from these is gone. I'll try and make sure I have none of this garbage here. I'm picking this garbage off. You don't want it, so I'm just got me a little debris thing on my cutting board. And as I get this, I'm just fishing them out with my hands. Normally I have a colander for this, but again, I'm not in my kitchen, so I don't have a colander handy. And then I'll save these seeds and regrow them next year. Around spring I'll start. And these should be acclimated to this area. And you know, it's kind of funny. I was talking about yellowneck squash and all these different things. Have you ever wondered what the term squash, where it comes from? It's Native American, but it's not from my tribe. It is actually from the Algonquin. The word is actually a squash, which means eaten when green. Now, naturally, these are ripe, but like the yellow squash and stuff, you normally eat them when they're green. Even though they're yellow, they're still immature, and so you eat seed and everything. The reason why I bring this up is that a lot of people say, oh, the Cherokee are a Algonquin offshoot, and that the Cherokee are Algonquin. And I always have a problem with academics. Academic types usually are some of the most ignorant individuals I've ever met. If they had ever spent any time actually talking to a real Cherokee and learning the language instead of creating their fiction, what they would learn is that our word for squash is iya. It sounds nothing like a scooter squash. So if anybody ever tells you that the Cherokee or any really of the southeastern woodlands tribes are Algonquin, tell them they're a liar, because it's true. They're a liar. They're propagating fiction, and that's all it is. And I wish I could show you, but I don't want to touch my camera with wet hands. But my other hand that I'm holding this, my hands have turned yellow. You really can't see it here, but maybe right there and right there, there's so much of that beta carotene that's in the water. You can see it on my thumb a little bit. It is staining my hands orange. It is so nutrient packed. And so that is something that the old-timey Native American varieties were very nutritious. And so in my tribe, we learned that when you eat selu, corn, iya, beans, or iya, squash, and tuya, beans, that those three things together will actually keep you alive, so you don't even need meat. And so I'll do an episode later on how to process selu into hominy with a process called nitrification. And nitrification allows you to eat the corn and make it where it's nutrient rich. Otherwise, it's not going to be nutrient rich. But I just wanted to show you, this is step one of a multi-step seed saving process. But really from here, all it is a matter of getting on a sheet pan, probably with some paper towels under it, letting the air dry, taking my hand every day and just kind of stirring them up until they're totally dried out, and then I'll store them in a paper envelope. You don't want to store them in plastic, just in case they might get some air in there. You don't want to get them moldy or mildewy. And then next year, all you gotta do is plant. If you were going to actually roast these, you just put a little bit of oil on there with some salt, lay them on a sheet tray, and bake them, and you'd have roasted pumpkin seed. But again, this is not the variety that is best suited for this, so I'm going to save these since this is a very rare and very important squash. Next step, we'll get on with the cooking. Okay, so now you might can see the steam coming off of it. What I did, I put some salt, put some sea salt on this. I find sea salt makes vegetables taste a little sweeter and better than regular salt. And so I put some saran wrap over this, put it in the microwave for about 15 minutes and then let set for 10 minutes. Okay, so what you do here, pretty much like you did with gutting it out, you just take your spoon and you just take all these. So again, I'm going to be doing the same thing with these others. Put it into a bowl and it just mashes away to nothing. If you get it just right, 15 minutes, no more than 20 minutes, that's the deal, and then let it steam for about another 10. You could go as long as 15 minutes. The idea is that the cooking process changes from the microwave to the steaming action, and that just gives a really good quality mush that once it's chilled in the refrigerator, it'll make a wonderful bread. And I got some right here on my finger. That is so good. You know, people don't like pumpkin and they talk bad about pumpkin, but I'm telling you, this is not what you find in a store. This is a creature all its own, and it just has a flavor that's hard to find. The only flavor, as I said earlier, that comes remotely close to what this tastes like is those little baby boo ornamental pumpkins. And if you haven't ever cooked one of those, I highly recommend you give them a shot. They are fantastic. So we'll go to the next step. Okay, so everything is now all the meat is separated from the holes. You can see that. My in-laws have some chicken, some Americanas, and some reds. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to feed them the holes, and that will just make for some fantastic eggs tomorrow. But with this, it's hard to see right here, but I probably got about 3.5 to 4 cups of this puree. And if I was at the house, I have a immersion blender, and I could really zap this up and just get it super velvety smooth. But really for this application I'm doing, it's really not necessary. But my wife, she makes a fantastic pumpkin pie. And right before my daddy died, he told me, he said that my wife's pumpkin pie is one of the best he's ever had. And so we had worked together on perfecting this recipe. It's actually a recipe from her grandmother that passed away, Dot Payne. So anyway, what I'm going to do, since this pumpkin is such high quality, I'm going to go ahead and freeze this. And a lot of people say, oh, you can't freeze squash, you can't freeze pumpkin. Yes, you can. In fact, when it's cooked, it's very easy to freeze. You're not going to do any damage. It's a wonderful way of preserving something for a later date. And whereas the pumpkin, this is October, it probably wouldn't last until, when we're going to eat the pie and at Thanksgiving or Christmas. I can freeze this, and then she can decide she wants to do one for Thanksgiving, or she wants to do one for Christmas, or if we have enough, maybe do one for each. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this for some pumpkin pie, because I have ulterior motives. And then I'm going to reserve roughly about 1 cup to 1.5 cups for the bread, because I really don't need all this pumpkin, and when you got something this precious, you don't want it to waste. So the chickens are very happy with the pumpkin. We did a little trade. I know it's kind of hard to tell, but these are actually green eggs. They're a breed called Americana. And just so that you know, I've got a store-bought egg for comparison, so you can actually see these. This is not dim lighting. I know this background is not the best for this, but you can see the store-bought egg that it's white. These are green. So they're a special breed. I thought that I'd show this to you as well. Okay, so right now we have got a 1.5 cups of our chilled pumpkin puree. I'm going to add in right now about 1/2 cup of half and half. Now you can use milk. What I normally do is I use dry milk, but because of shortages due to COVID, getting dry milk has been nearly impossible to get. Another problem has been trying to get evaporated milk. So you'll need to make adjustments as you go. If you don't have dry milk, I definitely like using evaporated milk. But in this case, I didn't have evaporated milk, so half and half will do. I'm putting in roughly about, I would say, a good cup and a half to 2 cups of flour. I'm using a self-rising flour. Now what I'm going to do, you won't see this, but I'm going to take off all my jewelry, so make sure you take off all your jewelry, all your rings, wash your hands good. This probably is not going to be enough flour, so remember to add more flour as you go, but you want to get a very elastic ball of dough that will not stand or that will not cling to your hands. Once it stops pulling from your hands, you're getting about there. Again, I'm using self-rising, and use a quality self-rising. Don't skimp on this. If it's a quality self-rising flour, it'll have baking soda and baking powder in it, and so you'll get plenty of leavening. But if you don't do that, you're going to miss out later. So again, use a quality self-rising flour. Back in the old days, what they would have done is took purple hull peas or any type of peas or bean hulls. They would have got a pillowcase to 2 pillowcases full of dry hulls, burned them down into a pot, and that pot would have made roughly about the size of a baby food jar, and they put the ash in the flour, and that would have acted kind of like baking soda. So that was the leavening agent back in the day. Nowadays we have the benefit of modern science, so definitely use that. So I'm going to mix this up. I'm going to wash my hands, take my rings off, mix this up, and I'll show you the next stage. Okay, so as I said, I'm going to have to add more flour, but I just wanted to let you know, even though it looked like I was adding a lot of flour, that is extremely wet dough, and it's sticking to my hands. It's very goopy. This is definitely not where you need to be. This is nowhere near, so I'm probably going to put another, I would say, close to 2 cups of flour. We're going to see how this works once I add the extra 2 cups of flour. I can always thin it down a little bit with more half and half if I need to. Another thing people ask about seasonings. Normally regular canned pumpkin already has seasonings in it. If I was working with an inferior pumpkin, what I would do is I would probably put, if I can get it, sassafras root tea. I like sassafras. It's a historical flavoring agent, and that's also the reason why I use the dry milk powder. But since you can't normally get that, you can also put allspice. And so I often cook a lot with allspice to mimic the flavor of sassafras the best I can. But as you can tell, this is a very orange dough. Some of that stuff is still not incorporated good. I'm just busting up the pieces with my my finger. As I said before, if you have an immersion blender, this would have been great just to stick that in there and zap it. But I'm going to add about another 2 cups of flour, see how that works. I may need to add even more flour. So again, this is a judgment call. So there is no real recipe. You're seeing as I'm cooking, but you don't want this. So we're going to keep going to the next step. The dough is now ready. As you can tell, it's not touching my hands any. I can press down, I can do all this to it, and it's not sticking to my fingers at all. So I did 2 pounds of flour, and for anybody that's overseas that doesn't understand American measurements or if you're one of these posh bakers and you do weights only, equivalent is 1 cup is a ½ pound of self-rising flour on average. So that was roughly about 4 cups of flour that I used. Remember, it was 1½ cups approximately of pumpkin, and then another ½ cup of half and half. So that brings it up to roughly 2 cups of liquid measure to 4 cups of dry measure. Now you may have asked, did you put any eggs? Did you put anything else in there? Any oil, anything of that nature? No, I did not. So there is no eggs in this. You will not find any eggs. You will not find any oil. It's just the flour I use already has salt, plus I salted the pumpkins real well, so I didn't add any salt. Because the pumpkin is so good, I did not add any seasonings, but sometimes I will, as I said before, especially if I'm using dry milk. I'll use sassafras tea, or I'll use allspice, especially if I'm dealing with an inferior canned pumpkin or something like that. So you could do the same dough. Don't use self-rising, just use all-purpose or durum wheat. Add an egg and go through the process of making a pasta dough. And this will make a fantastic ravioli or spaghetti or tagliatelle or even pasta alla gattara. But the eggs I showed earlier, the Americana, also called Araucana, it's actually a Spanish variety in the Araucana region of Spain, but here in America we call it Americana, but it's actually Araucana. I just wanted to show you the eggs, just because most people have never seen a green egg before, but there's no eggs in this dough. There's no oil. So the next step is for me to get some oil going in the cast iron skillet, and then I'll be frying these out. So I'll show you the next steps. Right now the oil is just getting to temp. This is a cast iron skillet, so we'll be getting here shortly. Once it starts shimmering, it's hard to see a shimmer, but once the shimmer starts, it'll be getting ready, and then we can start the process of getting these dough balls ready. So we've already got these done. They're roughly about the size of my palm, a little bit bigger. So think of a small dinner plate, somewhere between small dinner plate and a large saucer. What you do is you take a size a little bit bigger than a golf ball, and then you can flatten it out, shape it out. I did these traditionally by hand, but you can use a rolling pin, you can use tortilla press, whatever. We're going to come over here now to the stove, and if you can see that oil, it is just shimmering. What you do is you take your bread, oops, I didn't do that right. You're supposed to do this, you're supposed to put it out away from you, like that. So you stick it in, then it goes away. So I'm going to get these frying off. When they're golden brown delicious, I'll take them out and put them on some a sheet tray lined with paper towels. What we're doing now is just waiting for what we call the Maillard reaction to take place. If you want to know what the Maillard reaction is, that is just browning, and brown food tastes good. So and remember, if you have any questions, place it down below. If you like the content, please like and subscribe. I'm gonna fry these out and we'll go to the next step in a minute. Oh baby, tell me that is not a platter full of love right there. GBD, golden brown and delicious. You can see that vibrant yellow, that yellow orange peeking through those golden brown crisp edges. And what I did is I flattened these babies out to 1/16 of an inch. Now you're going to think that's awfully thin. You know, normally we do a 1/4 inch, something like that. That's awfully thin, but what happens is that it just retracts back on itself and it puffs up and it just becomes magical. Oh, I'm fixing to show you what I'm doing with this. This is just a platter full of love right here. Got fry bread, y'all? I do. So this is how we're going to dress up our Indian taco. First, some of my homemade chili. We're just going to put some of that on there. As you can tell, it's a little thick. I wanted this to be a little bit thick so it wouldn't go all over the place. It's not going to be like a soup chili for this. So you can just kind of dry it out in a little bit in the pan there. So once you got a good helping of chili, I like a lot of chili on mine, so I'm going to put some more. And there we go there. The next thing that I'm going to do, some of this is not traditional. I mean, really, there's no such thing as traditional fry bread or Indian tacos. It's something that was done after the war, Northern aggression. So I guess if you want to call it traditional, you can, but it's not like old traditional. But I'm going to put some onions on there. Some people say you shouldn't, I do. Another thing people might argue about is tomatoes. I'm going to put some tomatoes on mine. I like a good drizzle of some sour cream. That's another issue people have. Sorry for the dogs barking. My wife got home and they don't behave as well when she's here. So those are some Great Pyrenees, by the way. So if you hear them barking, these are big, big dogs. So then have some lettuce. So we'll do the lettuce. And from there, just a little bit of cheese on top. And we have our Indian taco. Alrighty, folks, time to dig in. Alright, this is what we call Who's Your Daddy? So when you're done with the meal, it's time for dessert, and this is how you can use it a second way. And what we're going to do is let it rain. And this right here, put another one. Get another, do this ugly one right here, because everything looks better with powdered sugar. And do it again. And now even the ugly stuff is looking good. Oh yeah. And that is what I call Who's Your Daddy? I tell you what, if somebody don't like that, I don't know what to tell them. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode. A bunch of people told me that I do a lot of stuff with writing and also conflict resolution. I do some stuff with that, but they wanted some more stuff about culture, something a little bit more interactive. So I figured let's do something with cooking because everybody can relate to that. If you will, please support my friends and family. As always, I bring up my wife, Toshana. She owns Toshana's Creations. This is one of the items that she makes. So, as I've said before, you know, I told you this is not that epoxy mess. This is quality stuff. Well, this is impregnated into the tumbler, so I can throw this in dishwasher, and it'll be fine. And so I run that through the ringer, and it looks as good now as it did the day she gave it to me. So if you really want something quality, order a tumbler. You can order a coffee mug. You can order shirts. whatever you get, you'll love them. If you get them as gifts, I know the people you're getting them for, they'll just absolutely adore them. My friends at Clear Creek Farms that donated the pumpkin, please support them. I've got their Facebook page down below. Also, my friend Ricky Wallace, we've talked about him. He has Wallace Knifeworks and Homestead. This is one of the other knives that I told you I have a bunch of them. So this is another one of my favorites. This one I don't use as much as the one that you normally see, but man, I do love this knife. It's got a sawtooth back on it. And so when I go into the woods, not when I'm processing deer, but when I go into the woods, this is what I have on me, because you never know. And the knife handle, that crown stag right there handle, it fits my hand perfectly. And it's just a wonderful blade, sharp as all get out. He's got a rawhide handle, or rawhide sheath that he did with this one. Deer, of course. So please check out Ricky. He's got some fantastic stuff. I think you'll love his channel. If you haven't already, consider buying my book. You can buy it wherever quality books are sold. And also, if you go to ebook lingo, they'll have my book there. Christmas time is also coming, and I do feather art. So this is a little dolphin that I've got. And then I've got a bunch, and those run $15, by the way. And then I've got a bunch of feather paintings in inventory. And so you can tell this is a pretty big feather painting. This one alone runs, I want to say, $250. It runs $250. And I'm trying to clear out my inventory. So if you message me, I can send you some pictures of my inventory, and they're all going to be $100 a piece. So I'm just trying to get everything out and make room for some new stuff. If you want a commission piece, of course, it's not going to be $100, but I can do a commission piece. But please like and subscribe also. So definitely hit the subscribe button. Some people that are older don't realize with YouTube, by hitting subscribe, you don't have to pay anything. So by subscribing to my channel, all that's doing is helping me out. So just go ahead, hit it. You're not going to be charged. So please understand that. And then in the comments, place comments. If you got any questions, if you want to ask something, whatever, put them in the comments. And also, I'm going to do a contest. So it's the 20th for NaNoWriMo. That's going to be, my first episode is going to be around the 1st of November. So what I'll do is around the 1st of November, if you'll put a comment below, I'll do a drawing, and whoever wins the drawing will get a packet of the pumpkin seeds. So I'll pay for the shipping, and I will send you a packet of these pumpkin seeds. Hopefully you can get some growing. And this will be an opportunity for you to have a little bit more immersive opportunity with this show and get something really neat, because they're very expensive to get. They're hard to grow. And if you can get some to grow, I think you'll love them. So please put down that, you want to be entered in the contest. Put a comment below, put your name, say, please enter me or something like that in the contest. And then November 1st, I'll do a drawing, and I'll put that in the comments below this video. So with that said, I hope everybody has a wonderful fall, and check out my other episodes, and we'll see you later. Bye.